Morning, folks. Welcome to Mark's Morning Business Check-in. And it's Friday. So for a lot of people, they're very happy that today has come. Friday, the end of the week, beginning of the weekend, so that people can relax and recharge the batteries. So we're live on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and we're live on TikTok as well. So good morning, everybody. I'm looking at the window here. The weather looks fantastic. If you're in Dublin, I hope you don't have too much hassle getting into town today because of the protests, which I believe are still ongoing. But we won't talk about that because they have a point, and all the extra fuel costs cost them a lot of money to run their businesses. So I can understand where they're coming from. So this morning, I just want to talk about something. I interviewed a chap yesterday from Memphis. His name is Bishop Kevin Foreman. And it was a fantastic interview, a fantastic gentleman, a fantastic individual. He's a pastor. He's also an entrepreneur. He's also an author of 5 books. And the podcast my interview with Bishop Kevin will go live probably this evening, or if not, Sunday evening. But it was a fantastic interview. And one of the things he said to me is something I've been saying for a long time, but he said it much better than me. One of the things I always say to people is that when you're going out for sales calls, or when you're going out for customer meetings, or you're meeting people for the first time, or trying to get a new business off the ground, and someone says no to you, that you never close that door, because you never know when it could be a yes in a month or 2 or 3 or 4 months' time, or 2 years' time, or 5 years' time. You never know when you're going to go back to that individual to look for more work. So you never know when that no will become a yes. And I say this to people because too many people over the years I've met have got a no from somebody. So they've gone in to do a sales pitch, or a marketing pitch, or a new customer pitch, whatever you want to call it. And the individual they're meeting, or the individuals they're meeting, have said no to them. And when they walk out of that meeting, when they walk out of that meeting, that's the last time they're going to talk to that person, because they're taking the no as a no. Just drinking some of my magic juice. They're taking the no as a no. Where where I always say to people, it's not a no, because people come out. I've come out of rooms with people where a meeting has gone very well, gone extremely well, but the person hasn't done business with us. But I still keep in touch with that person. It could be a year down the road, or 6 months down the road, or 4 years down the road. I keep in touch with that person in some shape or form, because you never know whether you may go to a new business selling different products, different services, and that person that said no may move to a new company where you may meet up again and you end up doing business together. And it's happened to me many times over the last number of years, over the last 30 years, where people who have said no to me for whether it's funding, whether it's business, whether it's products, whether it's services, whatever it is, that in a number of years down the road, sometimes even 10 years down the road, we end up doing business. And I always say to people, never fall out with people, especially in business, because you never know the next time you open a door, who's behind that door. And it could be the person that you fell out with, or you got annoyed with, and you allowed it to go beyond a certain stage, and you didn't keep in touch. But Bishop Kevin had a lovely way of putting it, which I thought was really good. He said, when someone says no to me, I don't see it as a no. I see it that they've said a word to me, N-O, that actually has 3 letters. Now, you're probably thinking, no has only 2 letters, N-O. And I was thinking the same until he said, Mark, when I hear someone say no, or the people who I coach, I tell them when someone says no to them, they've just forgot 1 letter at the end of that word. And that letter is T for not. So he said, I don't hear no. I hear not now. Not at the moment. It's not for me at this time. So he's turned it and looked at a different way. And he coaches the people who he coach, entrepreneurs and business owners, he coaches them that when you're in a meeting or when you're meeting up with, or you're doing a sales pitch, and we've all done sales pitches, we've all put a lot of work into sales pitches. And when I was in the advertising industry, you could put a month, 2 or 3 months into getting ready for a pitch to win a lump of business. And that lump of business could be worth 50 grand, could be worth $500,000. But you put the time in to get the pitch right, to get the approach right, to get the images right, to get the wording right. You want to make sure that the whole presentation you make hits the spot and makes someone buy off you or use your services. And when that doesn't happen, and you at the end of the meeting, or maybe a day or two later, they ring you up to say, this isn't for us, so we'll have to say no to you at the moment. You have to see that no as a not. And Bishop Kevin is right. When you change that thinking in your head, that they didn't say no to me. They didn't say no to me. They said, not now. Not at the moment. Not for this campaign. Not this year. Not in this quarter. You have to see it differently. And you know what the beauty of seeing it differently is? And because of the way Father Kevin said that, it made me think that, yes, if you see it as a not, then you're forced to do what I tell people to do, which is keep the relationship up. Because when you hear the word no, you see it as a full stop, the end of the road. You can't go any further. You're wasting your time. Where if you see the word as not, it's a whole different ballgame. Whole different ballgame. So I'm just putting 2 things live here. So you see it as a whole different ballgame. And when you see it as a whole different ballgame, and you see the sentence as a different sentence, it forces you then to keep the relationship up. It forces you then to keep talking to that person. Because Bishop Kevin was right, and as I said, this is a chap, anyone's coming late. This is a pastor in Memphis who I interviewed yesterday for my podcast, which will be out in the next few days. And what he was saying is something I've been saying to me for a long time, but he said it better. That when someone says no to you, don't see no as no. No is a 3-letter word. And the letter that's missing when they say no to you is not. Not now, not today, not tomorrow, but sometime. So if you start from today, when people say no to you, so if you went for a pay rise and the boss says no, we can't afford to give you a pay rise. So the answer is no. Don't see it as no. See it as you're not getting that pay rise today. So it's not today. It's not tomorrow. But it will happen very shortly. When you start to change how you see the word and what you hear, then things will start to change for you. Because you won't leave that meeting in a negative fashion. You won't leave that meeting saying, bloody hell, I'm leaving this company. I can't stand this boss. I can't stand this company. They don't look after me. You won't leave it in that negative fashion. You leave it in a more positive fashion because you didn't hear the word no. You heard the word not now. That makes a huge difference. And as I said, it's the same with sales. You go in and do a sales pitch, and I've done loads of them, you've done loads of them. If you're running your own organization, if you work for yourself, if you're a team leader or a sales manager, you've done loads of pitches, you've put the effort in, and you've walked out, and because the person has said no. And most of us will walk down the steps of that company or come out the front door and say, that was a waste of time. I'm not going back to them again. That's a complete waste of time. But as I said to you, You never know where you're going to meet that person again. You never know that maybe you might move to a new company or they might move to a new company. And the next time you go in and knock on a door, that it's them behind that door. It's them that opens that door for you. So if you come out of that meeting and the word you heard is not, you're going to walk out of that company with your head held high and in a more positive manner. Why? Simply because you know it's not the end of the road. Because you didn't hear no. You heard not. Not today. Not at the moment. Not where we are, where our other suppliers at the moment. And it does make a big difference. And that's why it's so important that you try and fall out with very few business people over the years. I've worked for a lot of companies, I've had a lot of businesses, and there's many people who I've had disagreements with, but I wouldn't fall out with them. I would stay in touch in some shape or form because I've changed companies. I've started new companies. I've worked for one or two people. I've gone into buildings where the person who's about to meet me is someone who in a different life was working for a different company. And now I need this person to do business with me to make my company work. And if I had fell out with them, or left in bad terms, or left the meeting in bad terms, then I won't have something to build on. But if I've kept the door open, if I kept the relationship going in some shape or form, then I've something to build on. When I knock on that door, ring that doorbell, make that phone call, send that email, and it's the person who I dealt with and worked with maybe in the past. So it's important you do your best to keep those contacts alive and those contacts fresh, and try and not fall out, especially in a place like Ireland and the UK, where when you run your own business, the amount of people who are self-employed running successful businesses and businesses that are growing, it's not a huge number. It's not a huge number. So you're going to come across people who you've dealt with in the past. And maybe it's someone who let you down product-wise. Maybe someone let you down who promised to deliver business here. Or someone who worked with you and you just didn't turn out to be the right person. But, sorry, I have ginger in that. But if you kept the lines of communication open in some shape or form, then you can rebuild on the relationship. And that's very important. That's extremely important. So from today, when you go into a meeting, when you go into a presentation, when you go into a sales pitch, when you go in for a pay rise, when someone says no to you, do what Bishop Kevin does and only hear the word not. Do not hear no. The word you only will hear from now on is not. If you've missed the bus and you ask someone, when is the next bus in a few minutes? No, that's not true. The next, it's not now. It's not in 10 minutes. So from now on, when you go in for a meeting, just change that. Change what you hear. And I'm telling you, it will completely change how you approach people, how you approach scenarios, how you approach roles, how you relate to people, how you keep relationships alive, how you keep relationships alive not just with people, but with other companies. And people will then see you as a very positive person. Because when someone says no to you, your shoulders are going to drop, your demeanor is going to change, and they're going to see a very disappointed person. Where if you hear the word not, you're still going to have your head held high, you're still going to have a positive demeanor because you know that person says not now. So you know you're going to be coming back to knock on that person's door to look for that business, to get that work, to get that contract, to get that tender. You know you're going to come back and you're going to knock on the door. And that's important. So going into the weekend, Just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. And if you start to practice that, it will start to change how you look at business. It really will. Failure will become a thing of the past because you won't think about things that didn't happen. It just didn't happen at the moment. The possibilities of them happening in the future is very high. And that's the way to look at it. So thanks very much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. We're going to say goodbye to all our people listening on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and I said Instagram, didn't I? Yeah. And TikTok. So if you're looking for any of our podcasts over the last since January the 6th, and even further back, I have a lot of stuff up there. We've nearly 100 podcasts up there now. They're all, just put in my name, Mark Beggs, wherever you get your podcasts. Or we have them on our YouTube channel at Mind's Eye Education. And make sure on our YouTube channel you have hit the subscribe button, because that way when we put up the interview with Bishop Kevin, which is a fantastic interview, you'll really like him. He's a really go-getter, full of energy guy. Really is. And I really enjoyed the interview. We had a laugh. It was a really positive interview. So make sure you've subscribed to my YouTube channel at Mind's Eye Education, so that as soon as we put that interview up, you're going to get a notification that it's up and it's live. And all these podcasts are all free. They don't cost you any money whatsoever. No matter where you follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, make sure you hit the follow button or the subscribe button. It's all free. Why wouldn't you? Anyway, have a great day. Have a great weekend. Talk to you all again very soon. We're just ending our broadcast now on our social channels. Saying thanks everybody